I got a resolution I want to present, or at least add to the next meeting's agenda.
Yeah, good.
Okay. What else do you have? Okay, it's a resolution of the Gateway School District establishing a policy concerning expenditures of the Gateway School District. Whereas the Pennsylvania School Code requires board approval for any expenditure over $100.00. And whereas expenditures come up during the month, oftentimes after the study session, but before the regular meeting. And whereas the board of directors of Gateway School District often see expenditures incurred after study session for the first time at the regular board meeting and have no time to consider the same in a deliberative fashion. And whereas it is recognized that the administration may well have expenditures that need to be approved following the study session, but before the regular meeting, and have them considered for adoption at the regular meeting. And I'm looking for section 1, any expenditures incurred by the administration after study session but before the regular meeting, which expenditures are presented for payment at the regular meeting, shall require a supermajority, which is 6 votes, by the Gateway School Board to be passed at the regular meeting. Section 2, all resolutions or parts of resolutions which are inconsistent herewith are hereby repealed. And section 3, if any section, clause, provision, or portion of this resolution shall be held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such decision shall not affect any other section, clause, provision, or portion of this resolution, so long as it remains legally enforceable minus the invalid portion. Mr. Dice?
Yeah, Brian came to me and asked, I think what the concern is that between the study session and the regular meeting, expenses come up and you don't have a chance to discuss them in detail. Rather, they're brought up at the night of the regular meeting, and that's when you learn of them for the first time. I think he indicated to me that he had a problem with that, and that he wanted to cure that by saying, look, I recognize there could be a need for such an expenditure to be approved, but we ought to make it a supermajority. Otherwise, let it go till the next month, so you could have the opportunity to discuss it. I think that's what his basic concern is, and he's shaking his head yes. So I think I stated it.
It reads to me like we're basically incorporating any expenditure into the existing transparency policy that we implemented, I believe, last year.
And you
That was limited to board resolutions that result in expenditures. And this would include basically any money that's going to be spent. It should be presented at the study session and then voted on at the board meeting. But obviously, when things come up, emergency status type things or things of a timely fashion, that it still leaves the door open to get those passed.
With the supermajority.
Correct.
If I could comment.
But understand, the next month, if need be, it'd just be a simple majority because it would be up.
Right.
Go ahead, Paul.
Just for clarification for everyone, I think maybe you're referring more towards the actual resolutions that include an expenditure. Currently, and as what's presented this evening, with the exception of what I noted this evening, that the list of bills doesn't change. But for moving, for instance, for next meeting on the 27th, we would be adding an additional list of bills again for the end of the fiscal year for that. So it would be separately identified, list of bills specifically related to that.
Okay, and I think that's exactly what he wants to catch.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that. And I know that that's just part of the business that you go through.
Mm-hmm.
What I think happens is it will require, rather than 5 votes, 6 votes to approve those separate bills. And it happens, and I recognize it happens every month, pretty much.
No, it actually doesn't. This is actually a rarity, but it doesn't. But I'll tell you what, this is good timing because what I wanted to do was bring this up anyways. I mentioned probably a couple months ago in my weekly report about being able to add list of bills every month because there truly is a need. Unfortunately, some of our vendors, depending on when the study session regular board meeting is, they may submit their invoices. And there's invoices that we do want to get processed. We don't want to have to wait to the next meeting because they're either doing a service for us or something in a very timely manner. And, we always like to pay them out for that. But, this is fine with that. I definitely
hear what you're saying.
Would like to be able to add that grouping every month because when we were doing that previously, it worked great. We kept the vendors happy, kept our services, what we were doing.
Are you able to identify that for the board? I mean,
Oh, most certainly, yeah. It would be, for instance, what we'll be presenting, we're going to be doing a separate run. It'll be a brand new section B1. It'll be asterisk added after study session meeting. You'll be able to take a look at that. You'll know exactly what was added to that. We won't simply merely merge it with what's here this evening for that. We would keep it separate for everyone.
But
There'd be no doubt in terms of what you'd be looking at.
How soon, I think what Brian was concerned about is he's hearing about it the night of the meeting. If you have
Can I
this.
comment? This question?
Go ahead, Mary Beth.
I'm guessing this is more of expenditures like the scoreboard that came up that wasn't a regular expenditure like Mr. Shaw's talking about. That would be what motivated this policy.
That's my understanding, and if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Schott, the majority of things on their list of bills are things that are already approved.
A lot of them.
We approved
Yeah,
that
it's-
we were going to spend that money, we're just finalizing
The
that
general
we're cutting
budget.
the check.
Sure.
So I think
More
for the
formality.
most part, I don't think that's gonna be subject to this. I think, if I'm correct, I don't wanna say incident, but the proposal or the request that I think spawned this was the $300-some thousand for the iPad expenditure, which wasn't on the study session, and it came up, basically the night of that board meeting.
So we got to find a way to say this, because right now it says everything. So there are no exceptions. Paul would be caught by this. Somehow, while he's presented the resolution, and now it can be voted on next week, we can maybe add some language, Paul, you and I talk about it, so that your situation is somehow exempted from this,
Not compromised.
not compromised, yeah.
I was gonna say maybe to add to that is terms of those expenditures that are presented in section F, the administrative report. Because that's essentially where that would be, or you could even extend that.
But wasn't that where the $300,000 or $400,000 iPad came in?
That was not in the list of bills, that was a.
That was in section F.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those iPads were reflected in the 18-19 budget. Mr. Brown, Micah, was simply looking to purchase those items in advance in order to get the process started. So those iPads would be in the hands of children.
And I don't think Brian's saying he has a problem with that. It's just that it's coming up at such a time where he hasn't had a chance to really look at it. So therefore making a supermajority. And next month, so it gets held for a month. And next month, it gets passed by a simple majority. I'm trying to advocate Brian's position because that's what he told me when we spoke. I think what we need to do, though, is to add your language about section F and find a way to say that with some language change to the resolution. But you would be able to vote on this at next next week's meeting because it's been presented.
Right.
With your consent, with Brian's consent, I'm going to tweak that to permit Paul to have his way with the section F. Okay?
Yeah, we'll take a look at that, yeah, we'll make those adjustments.
And I'd just like to add that what just happened now is a prime example of the purpose of this resolution, so that things can be presented at a study session, and we can have this
Right.
discussion in the public, open, and find little details that maybe we don't like, maybe we need to tweak this, can we look here, and then have that hammered out for when we go to vote, and everybody's informed, and we can make a better decision.
But in the meantime, if it is already hammered out and everybody's okay, a supermajority
Correct.
could pass it that.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, after we've had our last budget meeting, I think, we should be looking at everything with as much detail as possible before we start spending money. And I think this would be a good way to make sure we're spending money on the right things and we know what we're doing.
Brian, I'm still a little uncomfortable with it, and so if you could find a way to tweak the language to ameliorate my lack of comfort, and that is sometimes even a supermajority can be confused but embarrassed in voting what they think or what they feel should be done, but still not have all the facts. And so that extra window of opportunity where the research can be done in a dispassionate way offline and have other people weigh in on it, that provides that level of comfort. So even if it's a supermajority, we could still be caught off guard, and I don't want us to be caught off guard. I want us to do everything out in full view of the public and with all the information that we could possibly have.
I mean, I get that, but I think part of this is, if it's something that's really not necessary, say like right now,
Non-emergency.
yeah, non-emergency.
That's the
then-
trick, right?
If the roof collapses between the study session and the budget and
Then,
the.
yeah, that we need to vote
That's
on
not
it.
an emotional reaction, that's a necessity, clearly.
Right. And I think to speak what you are worried about, if you're not comfortable voting one way or the other, you shouldn't be voting. You know what I mean? And I think that's what this is.
It's better
an
to
attempt
table it, or
alleviate.
if possible, wait. But sometimes we just do feel pressured to not wait or not even table because something really needs to get voted on that night, and I'm still not exactly sure
Right.
which way to vote. So
I think
want,
that's
I
something we
want
need to
that,
improve.
extra window of opportunity. So if you can,
You always have the right and privilege to table. I mean, you can always say, look, I'm not comfortable, I make a motion to table.
thank you. Is that good, Rye?
Yeah,
Thank you. That was a very nice resolution.
well, thank you.